Psychological facts present. Here are 15 mind-blowing psychological truths. The study of the human psyche and behavior is known as psychology. Research into human nature has been going on for decades and will continue well into the future. Even though our knowledge expands daily, there is still a great deal we don't understand. There are more interesting research results than others. Did you realize that punctuating your text messages gives the impression that you are trying too hard? Fasten your seatbelts. You're in for an exciting mental roller coaster. Some of your observations about yourself or others might find an explanation or confirmation in the accompanying psychological data. The first is that we will have less success with Plan A if we also have a Plan B. Volunteers whose minds wandered to a Plan B performed worse on the job at hand, according to research conducted by University of Pennsylvania scientists, compared to those who did not. Participants' motivation dropped when they were made aware of their flexibility, the researchers discovered. Expectancy theory, created by Victor H. Vroom in 1964, is relevant here. According to the idea of expectancy, your level of interest in an activity depends on how confident you are that you will achieve your goal. The very existence of a fallback strategy implies that the primary one will fail. Experts stress the value of planning ahead but caution against dwelling on the finer points. It's possible that you're unwittingly working against yourself. Second, sharing a yawn may strengthen our relationship. It's the start of a new work week, and you're raring to go. The man in the cube next to you yawns really loudly during the morning meeting. You start to breathe before you even realize it. Yet you show no signs of exhaustion. A sigh is a form of reaction. One of the most prominent explanations for why yawns spread is that response yawns reveal sensitivity. This helps to explain why autistic people and young children who have not yet developed empathy are less apt to respond with a yawn. Thirdly, individual lives are more important to us than large-scale disasters. In yet another Penn study, researchers looked at how different factors affected people's propensity to give to charity. One set of people saw a juvenile girl who was obviously starving. The second group was given information about the staggering number of people who succumb to starvation every year. And the third was educated on both sets of facts. The fewest contributions came from people who heard only the figure, followed by those who heard both. Donations from those who learned about the little girl were twice as high as those from the control group. According to psychologists, this is because we lose faith in our own abilities and the efficacy of our actions when confronted with problems that seem too large to solve. It seems more realistic to try to save the life of one starving child than to eradicate hunger worldwide. Have you ever forgotten your grocery order while out shopping? If so, you can thank Rule No. 4. Beginnings and ends are easier to remember than middles. Without it, you can still use visualization to recall information from the beginning and conclusion of a process. However, the details of the intermediate range are less clear. A research published in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience supports this idea. The phenomenon is known as serial position effect. It's also why you might recall your manager's presentation's conclusion but forget its intermediate section. You may not have a DHD after all, but this does exist. Rule number 5. It takes 5 good things to cancel out one bad one. You've probably heard that it's a good idea to thank the universe for something right when you wake up and right before you go to sleep. Since humans have what's known as a negativity bias, which causes them to dwell on negatives rather than positives, this helps keep them in check. Negative thinking serves no purpose and only serves to drag you down. Aim to have 5 positive experiences for every negative one. Who knows what amazing item you could bring into existence? Have you ever wondered why, when mom prepares something, it tastes so much better than when you make it yourself? In reality, assuming they are a good cook, food always tastes better when someone else prepares it. This is because by the time you're ready to eat after making a meal for yourself, the novelty has worn off and the meal has lost its appeal, according to the study's authors. 7th, it's better to be prepared for the worst than to be caught off guard. When someone says, "We need to talk," do you get that sick feeling in your stomach? As soon as you hear it, a million negative scenarios run through your head. If it's a personal interest, you might prefer an immediate breakup. You'd prefer an immediate dismissal if it were your employer. According to studies, understanding that something bad is going to happen is preferable to not knowing. This is because when we are in a state of uncertainty, our minds go into overload, imagining the worst case and best case scenarios. When one rule is too restrictive, we want to break all of them. When people feel like they are losing some of their freedom, a psychological phenomenon known as reactance causes them to break more laws in an attempt to reclaim that freedom. The adolescent years are a perfect example of this. They may respond to being grounded by sneaking out or engaging in other potentially harmful behaviors. There's a good reason we want to squeeze adorable things. Number 9. Doggies and little ones. Is it possible to resist the urge to hug, kiss, and smother them? This is evidently a common response among animals and has been dubbed cute aggression. An idea called cute aggression was first proposed in a 2014 paper published in the journal Frontiers in Behavioral Neuroscience. When we're feeling overly protective of an adorable puppy or baby, a little amount of aggression can keep us from doing harm. Tenthly, we unconsciously accept the beliefs that suit us. One's preconceived notions are more likely to be supported by one's interpretation of the data. This clarifies why audiences of varying political leanings tend to favor distinct media sources. Don't even bother attempting to persuade Uncle Fred to change his mind about foreign policy. Confirmation bias not only makes us more likely to look for evidence that supports our pre-existing we have already formed an opinion about, but it also leads us to discount evidence to the contrary. Dopamine and other feel-good hormones are released in response to enjoyable music. See also, number 11, you're programmed to love the music you listened to in high school. Every young person ever has said, "This is my jam," at a gathering. Those good old high school days. Alternatively, between the ages of 12 and 22, when one's perception of the significance of events tends to increase. Included tunes. Despite the passage of time, studies demonstrate that we still have a stronger connection to the music we bonded to as teenagers than to any other genre. 12. Our recollections are more like mosaics than sharp photographs. A false memory is a piece of information that you remember from your past that is not true. Leaving for work thinking you began the dishwasher when, in fact, you didn't. This is due to the fact that our minds have a tendency to make erroneous assumptions when presented with only a fragmented memory. 13. We see human features wherever we can, even inanimate ones. The phenomenon of seeing significant or familiar images, such as faces, in seemingly innocuous visual noise is known as pareidolia. The "man in the moon" is a popular symbol of this idea. Scientists speculate that this is because humans place such a high value on social interaction that we'd rather invent a face where none exists than fail to recognize a genuine one. Tip number 14. People will exceed our high standards but will not perform to our low ones. The Pygmalion effect refers to the tendency for people with lofty goals to achieve them. Researchers in the 1960s conducted a now famous study in which they told teachers that a random sample of students had great potential based on their IQ test results. They discovered that the high-potential pupils whose teachers had set higher goals for them actually met or exceeded those goals. Fact 15. Our minds don't put much stock in future deadlines. You could commence that major assignment or project for school or work right now, but you still have a while. Months fly by in the blink of an eye, and suddenly you're trying to squeeze weeks' worth of work into days. It's more alluring to focus on urgent but unimportant chores. They give you a sense of accomplishment almost immediately because they are so simple to complete. Short-term deadlines, such as those measured in days, are easier for our minds to process than longer-term deadlines, such as those measured in months or years. Please like and share this movie if you found it entertaining, as this will encourage us to produce more content like it. Get more content like this by subscribing and activating notifications. Also, have a look at the rest of our videos. Thanks for watching.